soul, nourish my sanctuary. Just hear this rising, looking out my window, seeing the overcast sky, seeing the trees dancing in the breeze, seeing the clouds pass by, and just being here drinking my tea as I do every rising, and I'm reflecting on as our season is changing where I'm at in the world anyways. We experience all seasons very strongly here in Utah, and just feeling what we can learn in this time and space. And if you have a womb, then you can feel more deeply this time, this season in your body every month, no matter if it is fall where you are, you can still feel this season of change in your body. And seeing the cycle as a season, I am currently in my inner fall season, where my cycle is at. If you're familiar with menstrual cycle awareness, you know that the luteal phase, which is the phase right after ovulation, the peak of your cycle, once ovulation is done, that's when luteal phase begins to come in, and that's when you may feel your hormones dropping and maybe that inner critic coming in. Once I knew about this phase in my cycle, it brought a lot of awareness as to why I felt the way I did, and not seeing it anymore as something that, oh, I'm just crazy, but it's literally your hormones dropping. So as you look to the season of fall, if you can see that outside where you're living, or just take this into your own awareness of your body, and seeing as you go through different seasons of your life, how this time in your body can it can teach you how to let go, how to adapt to change, how to continue to see the beauty in your life, even though you're going through such a maybe abrupt change going into that inner season in your life. I know the fall time here was kind of abrupt. Every year it's like, oh, we went right into like from summer really hot to just complete fall, autumn, and it being brisk and chilly and stormy. So seeing a reflection of that in your own womb space, and if you still go through phases in your womb, depending upon where you're at in your age and your cycle, seeing how every month we get to experience this inner fall, And this is a time going with the interval can be approximately, if you track your cycle from day 19 to day 26, and then it drops deeper into deep luteal phase, which is 2 to 3 days prior to menstruation. So I'm on day 24, so I'm pretty much in the midst of my luteal phase, and yesterday I was just contemplating how I could still show up and relay a message to you all, and I feel like it's divine timing, even though this phase of my cycle can be one of the most challenging times as it reveals back the layers of what we may not have seen the first part of our cycle, as we're more in that high energy. Once our hormones come down into that luteal phase, we can feel more of this inner critic begin to surface. So just having that awareness can bring more acceptance and more love to what you experience during this phase of your cycle, or this season of where you're living, of fall time, and knowing that it's not all sunshine anymore in our bodies, that it's a gradual decline of our energy, and that can bring up grief in our body. It can bring more awareness to the things that need attention and the things that we may need to let go of in order to fully surrender into our inner chamber of menstruation, or the season of winter. So more so looking at it as a deep nourishment for your life. What can you let go of to bring down into your soil to enrich your body and bring more nutrients to your body? For that inner winter, so you have the reserves to replenish and rejuvenate and renew your body. So themes to think about at this season, and if you have a womb, this luteal phase every month, some themes to think about is to slow down at this phase or season of your life, knowing that it's preparing you to surrender more to what's meant for you at the second half of the year or cycle. This is a time to say no and practice your boundaries. So it can be a little hard sometimes to be really firm in boundaries. So this is a time that demands that you say no to certain things in your life. Maybe things that you said yes to in the first part of your cycle or the first half of the year? Was this a time to revise and reframe? What do I need to let go of? What can I say no to honor myself more and bring more love, more self-care? So just sitting with, where are your boundaries? What can you say no to really nurture yourself? And knowing that your boundaries really are an act of self-love for yourself and the people around you. And this is also a season phase to clarify your needs. So again, coming back to as these layers fall, as we see in nature, the leaves falling, what in our lives are falling down to be looked at and nourished, whether we need to say no or to bring that part of ourselves to rest. Maybe those things that are falling down can bring more nourishment for that thing to grow stronger with more strength and vitality as we come into the different seasons of our life, or the different phases in our cycles as they shift and transition. The inner season of fall is also the phase of the dying process. So as we come out of ovulation, that peak energy, it can be kind of abrupt, coming down into more of the underworld or the soil of our bodies, our life, our earth. And I invite you, if you are in the season of fall where you are at, going into nature somewhere special, and sitting with the earth and reflecting upon what in your body is shifting as the season shifts. I know in my own body, my menstruation has switched from the new moon. I used to bleed with the new moon, and now it has switched to the full moon. And it was kind of abrupt, an abrupt switch this past cycle. A lot of uncomfortability in my womb, and sometimes those abrupt season changes can shift our wombs into a whole different cycle. So just becoming aware what is happening in your womb as the seasons change. And do you notice different patterns happening as you become more aware of the season you're in, the moon's phases, and the correlation to your own body phases? I'm curious in the comments below if your womb has shifted, or if your body, if you don't have a womb, has shifted as the season changes, and what those changes have been. As you can see, I have my little tea here. Just gonna pour myself another pot. And as I have discovered, as I have sat with this gorgeous plant medicine for the past few years, quite frequently, most days, I have noticed a correlation that with the tea leaf, that it correlates to the cycles of our bodies as women, as womb holders, and the elements of the earth, the seasons of the earth. Today I have a beautiful Pu'er tea. I wanted to show you what it looks like. Pu'er oftentimes comes in what's called cakes. As you can see, it's layered and caked, and when you use it, you can just tear little pieces off of it. It reminds me of the soil of the earth, like all the decomposition. And Pu'er is related to the element of earth, so it holds that wisdom of earth that you can learn from as you drink that tea. And as we come into fall, Pu'er is a beautiful one to sit with, as I feel like it really nourishes our roots and the soil of our own inner landscape, and reminds us of the nourishment, the deep nourishment that we can feel as we let go and sink deeper into our bodies. And I just love this plant so much. And also Pu'er is filled with little happy microbiome. Great for your gut microbiome because it's fermented and aged. So every tea leaf has a different way it's processed, and Pu'er is aged and fermented depending upon the Pu'er you get. Some Pu'ers are aged for many years. I had a Pu'er that was from 2004 at the beginning of the year, and so it's good to know like how aged your Pu'er is. It's nice to know like the quality and what year of Pu'er you sit with can depend upon like how deeply you can feel the tea leaf, and it can teach you different things depending upon how aged your Pu'er is. Fall time in Chinese medicine, it's related to the element of metal, and metal brings the quality or surfacing of grief. It's also related to the organ of the lungs, and the lungs are where we process our grief. So as we're coming into this fall season, grief can naturally surface as the season changes and as you come into your luteal phase of your cycle. Grief can naturally surface. So when we have that awareness, we can come with more acceptance and love, because we know what's happening in our bodies, and it's a natural thing we all cycle and go through. So as we normalize menstrual cycle awareness, as we normalize season changing with our mood, with our body fluctuations, and as we normalize death and grief, and that is a normal part of life, then we can come with more acceptance and more love of the full cycle of life. And through our fall time, through our luteal phase, through our death phases, or death occurring in our life, that death cycle brings a deep nourishment to our soil. So knowing that as fall time sheds its leaves, as we shed things in our life, as we say no, as we hold our boundaries more strongly during this time, that it's actually cultivating more love, more groundedness in our power. And with that awareness, we can release self-doubt and shaming ourselves or feeling bad about having stronger boundaries, because it's actually bringing us into more love and preparing us to surrender to our wild power and that inner stillness, that space of bliss. And as we honor the change of season, as we honor our luteal phase, once we transition the fall season in our inner world, in our outer world, when we're honoring that time, it can bring us into a deep space of bliss and surrender, and actually feeling blissful during our menstruation, and receiving the visions for our life of what's really true for our own self, instead of the outside world. Coming into how can we tend to our inner world in a deeper way through the fall time, so that when winter comes, when menstruation comes, it's this easeful, graceful transition. And you can also think of that in death as well. When somebody is transitioning, how it can be hard to let go of something you love so deeply. And oftentimes the person that is transitioning wants for those people to accept that transition. So how can we build more intimacy through accepting and honoring where people are, right where they are? And that's an important awareness to come about, because when we're honoring exactly where somebody is, then we can release the pressure off of our own self and them, because we're going through this natural process of the cycle of life and honoring life cycles. So I invite you to just take some intentional moments today and feel what is happening in my environment around me. What season is shifting, and how is my body feeling as the season shifts? And also, where in my womb am I at? What phase, if you are aware of cycle awareness, what phase are you at in your cycle? If you're not sure like what exact day you are in your cycle, you can just tune in, feel in your womb when was your last menstruation, and in relation, where is your energy at? And feeling, putting your hands on your belly, putting your hands on your heart. If you'd like to sit with tea, tea is a beautiful invitation to honor exactly where you are at and actually begin to feel where you are, where you're at in relation to the life around you, and how can you honor this phase of where you are in your cycle, and how can you honor the people where they are at in their cycles and their transitions, without trying to fix people, without trying to fix or change a season, or trying to fix or change a cycle in your own body, but rather inviting this gentleness of honoring where you are, exactly where you're at, and coming into how can I love this part of myself, how can I love this season that I'm in my environment, and how can I love this phase of my cycle. And they require different things. We are not straight-lined beings. We are human beings, and hue is colorful. We are colorful beings on this planet. We're not black and white, straight up and down. We are fluid, moving, cyclical beings. Even if you don't have a womb space, I believe we all are cyclical beings, and we cycle through so much on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, seasonally, quarterly, yearly, also in relation to the moon cycle. We're all influenced by these earthly planes. And fall time is a time where the veil is thinning, quite literally. So as we see more darkness in our days, that can invite us in a deeper way to tune into our own landscape And we don't have to see it all as we need to do our shadow work and all these things, but rather what is asking for more nourishment, more care, more attention. What can I say no to? What do I want to say yes to? And really revising, taking inventory per se in our inner landscapes. And tea can be such a beautiful invite into that space. So as I'm drinking my Pu'er, inviting you into your cup. As I was saying a little bit before, that fall time in Chinese medicine correlates to the element of metal. So metal correlates with Chinese herbs, and right here I have a spagyric of Sasandra berry, and so it carries that element. So it's beautiful one for fall time, anytime really, but especially fall time. Sasandra has the 7 tastes: sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, salty, sweet. I think I said that. So Sasandra berry invites us into adapting to change, adapting to stress. It's an adaptogen. So having a little in your teacup. I use mine in a spagyric form, which is an alchemical preparation. You can also just purchase Sasandra berries. I like to chew on them for a little palate cleanser and immune booster. Usually on my 3rd cup of tea with the tea leaf, I like to add adaptogenic herbs for my rising medicine. So depending on the season, you can switch that up. And if you are feeling any certain ways as the season transitions, I invite you in to share that in this space. Really cultivate community connection through this app, as I believe when we are fully our authentic selves and raw, vulnerable, connecting in our humanness and accepting where we're at, sharing the cycle of life and all its transitions and changes that I know I really desire, and it's important for me to have raw, authentic connection and build community in this space. So as I close out here, if you're locally in the Salt Lake City area, I would love to honor you where you're at in your cycles at Soul Nourish. I do herbal foot bathing, reflexology, energy healing. I create personalized packages depending on where you're at in your cycle, your phase, and your life. Everyone is so unique, so I love to accommodate where you're at in your cycle of your life, so we can work in a more intimate way. If you're not locally here in Utah, I would still love to provide this space of Soul Nourish. For a space, you can reach out to me, ask for support. I do one-on-one Marco Polo or Zoom sessions with tea and just sitting with our cups and sharing whatever wants to be heard and seen and held. And such a needed space, especially at this time as we process so much collective grief and transition into a new way of being. So I love you all. I am in sacred service to the cycle of life. So I love the space to relay that message. And have a beautiful